This morning at Goodwood Correctional Services facility, DCS Special Force members have been conducting a raid, and this is after a remand custody detainee was uncovered to have a very active social media profile. He goes by the handle of Bonnie Banks, or Bankface, is a Zimbabwean national currently in remand detention at the Goodwood Correctional Services facility. It's got a widespread attention, particularly on social media, his TikTok accounts. Let's just play you a little bit to remind you.
We are doing extremely fine. We are not even suffering at all. We are happy. And look here, we are not even paying rent. No. We are not buying electricity.
It's raised some important questions about what constitutes an appropriate prison life and the limits on personal pleasures of inmates. Correctional Services Minister Pieter Groenewald joins me now on the line. Minister, really appreciate your time. The first time I'm speaking to you since your appointment, so I wish you good luck in this position. This issue, this is what we're talking about now. You have far more pressing issues to deal with, more than just an inmate posting on social media. But you think a video like this affects how the public views the criminal justice system?
No, it's not an issue that is a minor issue. It's an important issue because it's not acceptable, and it is a contravention of the Correctional Services Act. And we have already acted, and the person is also charged with the illegal possession of a cell phone. And there is a further investigation. I want to know, how did it happen that the prisoner could have had a cell phone with him? That means there's a security problem or corruption involved in this. So he has already been removed from that specific facility, and we will act when these sort of videos then appears, because it's illegal. So for me, it is not a matter of there are bigger issues. Of course, we have to look at all the issues, but each and every issue is important. In Afrikaans, we have a saying, dat is die klein jakkalsies wat die wingerde verwoes. So we will have to look at each and every incident, and I can assure you, I want from my people that there is strict actions against these sort of contraventions.
Minister, I can already tell you, we have a fair number of incarcerated people who listen to our station, and here's a message from one of them. Always keep in mind, it's only officials who enter and exit the prison complex daily, so all drugs, phones, alcohol is brought in by corrupt officials. That's the inmate who messaged us this morning, Dr. Groenewald.
Yes, that is true, and that's why I said one of my priorities is corruption. We will have zero tolerance when it comes to corruption, but I also want to say, far the majority of the wardens and the employees of correctional services are honest, hardworking people with integrity. And I already said to the top management of correctional services that we must take hands with all those employees, honest ones, and we must stamp out and get rid of the bad apples. Therefore, it is a priority. I will ensure also that there is no such thing as impunity, because that is part of the problem. People are caught doing things wrong, committing crime, but they get away with it. And that will not be tolerated. I am quite aware of the fact that is part of the problem of the wardens themselves, which is part of this corruption actions.
Minister Groenewald, what would you consider, in your opinion as Minister, an appropriate prison life? What's your opinion on the extent in which privileges could be afforded, indulgences of prisoners? How do you view that?
Well, firstly, we will have to look at our rehabilitation programs. We must remember one thing, and I said it also to the top management. We are a correctional services That means that we must deliver a service to the people of South Africa. And that service is firstly that we must protect the people of South Africa against criminals, but we also have an obligation of rehabilitation. Because I know there are quite a lot of remarks when it comes to parole, but say, for instance, a person received a 10-year sentencing. After 10 years, that person must go back into society in private, can I say, jobs or anything. And I see it as a priority that we will have to look at that rehabilitation processes. Now, it involves quite a lot of things. Part of that, what I see, is also part of self-sufficiency for our prisons. That means that we have farms, we have factories, we have wood shops, we have steel shops, and I do believe that we must ensure, of course, there are certain categories that people get working and start to get a situation. For instance, if I take our wood shops, that all furniture for state departments should be then purchased from Correctional Services. We have certain budget constraints, but this can assist how we can deal with those constraints. So we must ensure that we don't get a situation, for instance, where a person gets into our facilities for a minor offense and comes out as a hardened criminal. We cannot allow that. We have that obligation, and therefore we are in a process to look at our rehabilitation processes.
Mr. Minister, as I said, we have inmates who listen to us, and we actually received a voice note earlier, obviously sent by an electronic device. Have a listen.
I'm also an inmate listening to your show every morning from 4 o'clock onwards, and thank you guys for the good content. About that idiot who posted that thing on TikTok. Yeah, a lot of us guys here, we've got phones, but we actually use it just to communicate with our families. A lot of us, we only got family overseas, so it's difficult. And 90% or maybe 100% of the time, the public phones here never worked in years. So that's our only way. In fact, if you need something from outside or whatever, even the officials will tell you, then call your people. If you say you don't have a phone, they just tell you, go to your section, somebody will give you a phone. A lot of them do turn a blind eye, and a lot of them sadly makes a business out of it. They search the sections, they demand bribes, and it's like a business model here in prison. But for the most part, we try to make only good use of it and not mock the victims of our crimes. We try to better ourselves.
I think that's a very sober message there from that listener who is in an unidentified, or we're not disclosing which facility he is in. But he says often communication is a problem. If the South Africa is a signatory to the UN Convention on the Treatment of Prisoners, it's quite notably called the Mandela Rules on the Rights of Prisoners, saying that communication is an issue, and many times inmates are forced to smuggle in and use communication devices, Minister.
Yes, as you said, we have the Nelson Mandela rules, United Nations and everything. And some of those rules are depending on what category of prisoner you are. There are certain privileges for some and other not. But it is true that, as this person has said, some are actually operating a business from within our prisons. And yes, it is that some wardens just turn a blind eye. But I say again, I will see to it, and I see it as part of my priority, to ensure that there are no more blind eyes in prisons, and that we will have to deal with this matter. If you just say to yourself, it's a problem that we will not be able to solve, it's just going to escalate, and that is also not fair to certain other prisoners who because of good behavior, are also now punished further because of certain new rules or anything like that.
Dr. Pieter Groenewald, really appreciate your time, Minister of Correctional Services. But let me speak to Chris Malgas quickly. He's a former Portsmouth prison warden. Many decades spent behind the walls at the country's most notorious prison. He knows the insides, the in and the outs. Your thoughts, Chris? Is there a balance? There are, of course, the rules on what privileges inmates are afforded to, but you working on the inside, is there a balance between what wardens allow and don't allow operationally?
Good morning, Lester, and good morning to your listeners. All about the privileges is set rules that has been implemented over years, and that is the basic things that offenders or inmates qualify over a period of time, because all offenders arrive at prison with the either A group or B group, and they work yourself from a B group to become an A group. And once you obtain the A group, there is more privileges like having pictures of the family, privileges having to buy at the shop once a month. Privileges is to make a call from the public phone and not from a cell phone, and that phone call then manifests as a visit. So the privileges has been obtained over a period of time, and if the inmate of the offender qualified for that is the people on the outside now was watching that video of the offender in Goodwood. I can understand people are furious, but there's no soft life in prison. The offenders receive hygienic stuff like soap and toilet paper and toothbrush and toothpaste, because we need to, and he's awaiting trial. And being an awaiting trial, he qualified to receive those stuff. But there's no luxury life in prison. That is not on.
But Chris, after cells close at 4 o'clock, after prisoners have their last meal for the day, cells are closed and group cells are closed at 4 o'clock, only opening, I think, the next day, I think, and you would know better, at 5 o'clock. What happens in those closed cells is largely the terrain of offenders, of inmates, and particularly gangs who run those cells. Is there no way for wardens to control what happens after cells are closed?
There is a way. There is a way, but it comes with forward thinking, creative thinking. You are right saying that once we locked up and the doors are masked, double lock, what happens in those rooms is horrendous. So prison is supposed to be open 24 hours around the clock, because once in my time working with a head of center like John Johnson and Freddie Engelbrecht, I has once a month, after we locked up at 4 o'clock, I have a group of therapists that goes into the prison, and from 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock in the evening, we run programs at the gang unit, because precisely as what you say now, it is once we locked, everything changed in that cell. It is, and I work as a consultant for an NGO called Just Detention International, and our core objective is that nobody comes to prison to be raped, because rape is not part of the penalty.
Yeah. Chris Malgas, really appreciate it. Retired Portsmouth prison warden.